tumor. This is the one of the essential uh, cast, excuse me, abilities that the queen has because it allows you to extend your creep I mean, basically the amount of a hatchery is just about. I think it's a little bit smaller area, but this will allow you to move your units quickly because any Zerg unit on the creep moves much quicker than off creep, with the exception of the drone and obviously flying units, which don't touch the creep. But let's look at this queen for example. Look how slowly it is moving right now. It is crawling to the other base, and if you're in a position where you're getting rushed by Hellions, Reapers, or anything like that, you don't want to be crawling all the way to your other base, or you don't want to be caught off guard trying to come and take a defensive position on your main. So see how much quicker she's moving now on the creep. You want to make sure you take advantage of that. So he put that creep tumor down, and these actually, they are able to self-replicate themselves. So if you look here, it has a spawn creep tumor ability. Once you put this one down, you have to wait 15 seconds after it finishes for it to be able to put a second one down. But it actually, it gives you pretty wide ranges. Basically anywhere where it has vision, and the vision range is actually pretty big. It's about a little bit bigger than that, I would say. A little bit bigger than this square right here, because it is a circular vision pattern, and also obviously extends the creep, which is pretty bad for your opponent because not only doesn't make your speed faster, your doesn't it makes you reach your opponent faster, but it also gives you wide vision. Like if you start spreading it up here and then towards the middle and then towards the bottom, you can see where any attack is coming from on the ground, and it's very annoying to be taking care of those, especially if you are a Terran player, because normally you don't really make it Ravens, which is your mobile detecting unit, which is really the only way that the Terran can deal with the creep tumors when they're spread out like that. Wasting scans to take out creep tumors is not a very good idea. They would rather spend it on mules. So definitely one thing you really want to keep up on is your creep tumors abilities, and this will make your army, especially Hydraless guys, this will make your army so much more efficient, and it is scary. When you're an opponent player and you're not very confident in yourself and you see creep coming up all up into your base, that is such a scary feeling. So it's definitely something you want to keep on thinking about. So let me just talk real quickly. The third ability of the queen is regeneration, transfusion. This instantly gives 125 life to any biological unit, and that applies to buildings and units. So one good thing, if you start putting spine crawlers, because you're getting rushed or anything like that, you want to make sure that you keep one queen with a little bit of extra energy so that you're able to transfuse that spine crawler when it's getting low on health, and that will help you make it last a lot longer. You can also use it on units like Ultralisk or Mutalisk or things like that. Probably not a good idea to use it like on a Zergling or one of the weaker units like that. Even probably a Hydralisk wouldn't be a too good an idea, but a Roach or anything like that that has high health, definitely a very good idea to keep in mind. That is one key ability that a lot of Zerg players forget. And for example, if you're getting rushed and you have two queens here, you can actually transfuse queens back to back from one to another. Let's go ahead and continue this, and let me take a breather here real quick. Excuse me, my voice is a little messed up. The weather's been kind of wonky lately. So yeah, anyway, enough ranting, let's keep going. As you can see, my friend here is Setgen. He's still Secgen. He's still producing drones, and he has a couple of larvae here, but he really wants to hold on to these because he's pulling a couple of resources, but he actually supply capped himself. I think that's what happened. So as like I said, it's a little, even for diamond players, as you can see, it's kind of hard sometimes to keep track as a Zerg player of your supply. These overlords, you want to spread them out as much as you can. See how this one's up here at the entrance. He will see if there are any zealots coming before they are knocking up in the base. Allow him to give him a little bit of extra time to position himself better. And look at how big this creep tumor has spread the creep. What was up to here is now all the way up to here to the ramp, and it's just this little patch that is not yet surrounded by creeps. So this is definitely especially for the queens, when you're trying to move them back and forth, this is a very essential thing to do. He has gotten a second gas, but he hasn't populated yet because he wants to focus on minerals. This is good to have up because you don't really want to be gunning to get an extractor last minute, but definitely if you don't need the gas, as you can see, he's actually pulling a lot of gas that he doesn't need. He wants to leave that open a little bit. Now, these spine crawlers, I'm gonna pause here for a second again. These pine crawlers were put because he went around here and scouted what was going on here, and he saw that I was going a 4 gate build, or one of the variants of it at least. And look at this. I actually, if I were being aggressive this game, which I am not because it is a tutorial and I want him to focus on just macroing for a little bit. And really this is the kind of thing you probably see in the lower levels of the game, like bronze or silver, anything like that. Look, I've got quite a few units, and my opponent, if you look at his army units tab, he has 10 Zerglings, which are definitely not going to stop all these stalkers. They're going to do a lot of damage, but he's going to have to be running to get more Zerglings in. If I'm being super aggressive, then I can start spawning more Zealots and things like that, and actually start pushing up his base any second now. Like, this push could be incoming any second, so he's gone ahead and put two defensive spine crawlers. He wants one here so that I don't run my Zealots up in here, and he wants one down here so that I don't just ignore his expansion and go for his main. So he's put just two down. You don't want to put too many down. And one thing he either might be holding back on, or he might be forgetting to do, is to transfer a couple of these drones. You want to transfer about 9 or 10. Once you got this fully saturated, as a Zerg player, I think it's a little bit of different timing. For other races, you want to do it as soon as your expo goes up. But obviously the expo will go too early for you to really saturate it. I'm gonna just grab a couple, like when you have this many drones up here, you're gonna grab like 5 or 10 and put them over here. Now he might be waiting. A good thing to do is to wait if you're a Zerg player, because especially if you're going against a Protoss player, if I'm pushing right now and he has all these drones here, he could lose, all this plus the drones, and it's not a good thing. You really want to keep those drones, especially because he's a little bit behind right now. As you can see, 27 to 23, so I should be ahead in the mining, although yeah, we're still on the same number of bases, so probably not too far. And one thing I did forget to mention is you want to start working on your lair as soon as possible. Hatcheries are unique in that they're the only production building for the Zerg, and also they evolve from hatchery into lair and into hive. And if you ever need to look at the tech trees, you can click here on help, and it'll actually show you like all the units and all their counters and all the other good stuff. So this one's almost over. I kind of forgot to talk about this. This is also, I want to talk about the preference of doing your lair at your expansion or at your main. So let me just go ahead and forward this a little bit. See how this lair has 1800 health, and this hatchery only has 1250 health. So this is definitely preferential, but some Zerg players prefer to do their lair on the outside at the expansion because it allows it to be a lot sturdier. So if there is a push incoming, this will have a much greater chance of living with those extra 600, I think, yeah, about 600 health that it has. Now the bad thing about that is that if this push is successful, you just lost your lair and you have to rebuild it, and that is a very, very, very long thing. It takes a very, very long time to do that. Now, why this layer is important is because for Zerg, you pretty much can only put two things out of a spawning pool. You can put down, let's see, workers here. You can only put down the Roach Warren and the spawning pool. That's pretty much it. Oh, and I think the Banelix nest too, actually. I'm not too sure. It might, you might I don't really want to rewind, but if you're a Zerg player, you should double check. I think the Baneling's Nest might also be out of the spawning pool. But to make any of your advanced buildings, like the Spire or the Hydralisk Den and the Infestation Pit, or even the Nidus Worm, which is really what you want to focus is probably the Hydra Den or the Spire, you need to have this layer up no matter what. You just cannot build those other buildings without this layer. So really, the health bonus on the hatchery, once it evolves into a layer, that's one good thing. The other good thing is it allows you to build advanced units like Hydralisk, Mutalisk, and other infestors and other good things like that. So really not much else to that, but you definitely don't want to delay your layer too much. You want to be able to tech to the higher units because Zerglings will only get you so far in the early game, especially when it is not a CVC. So let's continue this game. As you can see, my opponent, he's going into macro mode. He is producing, let me see, production tab here. He's producing those two drones, and he's put down a Hydralisk Den. Where has he put it down? He has put it down here. This is one thing you can do, guys, especially against standard players. They have scan, and they'll generally just scan here or here, but most likely in your main, and they will see everything you have. So one thing you can do is you can actually either put this somewhere out here where you have coverage of a creep, or once you get your lair, the Overlord gets an extra ability. It has a generate creep. What you do is you basically click generate creep, which I believe is C on the Overlord, and it will start pooping out creep in a little radius, something like about this big. Not as big as the creep tumor, but definitely something that is good, that is kind of long. And this can be used very sneakily because you can actually move, say, this Overlord to back here to this third expo, put it down here, then put your spire here. And there is just really 99% of the times, guys, I swear no one will see it. If you put your spire down here, no one will see it, and it will be a big surprise when you have, like 30 Mutalisks catching in front of your opponent's base. Definitely a strategic thing you can use. Also, of course, you can, like, say this Overlord over here, you can start pooping creep and you can start extending your creep a little bit. And when you're doing Nidoswarm drops, if you're doing Nidoswarm drops, say for example you start putting creep here, and then you pop a Nidoswarm there, and this it's gonna be extended up to about here, for example, once the Nidoswarm is finished coming out. And that will give you the speed bonus necessary to reach the base a little bit faster, or to retreat if you need to, in a worst case scenario. So just these spine crawlers are finishing. Just remember that the Overlord can do the creep thing, and also one thing, the other ability that it can turn into Overseer, which for 50 minerals and 100 gas is kind of an expensive upgrade, mostly because of the gas, because that's the limiting factor in StarCraft games, really. But this gives it a faster speed, and it gives it new abilities that I really won't be covering in this game, but it gives it other in this tutorial. But it gives it other abilities that can be used offensively. And one thing you can do is, once you have your lair, you can actually upgrade your overlords to either move faster with a pneumatized carapace or ventral sacs, which allows them to transport units. Now, pneumatized carapace is probably something you want to get almost every game that goes into the mid game, and when you get this is really preferential because, say for example, if I go here into a gateway Stargate build and I get Phoenix, then I can start harassing these overlords all over the map. And you've seen how slow they move. I mean, they're gonna take forever if they're out on the map, or if, say for example, these ones over here, if they were at the back over here hiding somewhere, they would take so long to be into range of Hydralisks or